Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. Mark Moyer doing some great things with his coaching, informational, and networking events. Check out winagainacademy.com. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we have Ari Solomon in the Wolff Den with us. Ari, welcome. How's everything going today?
Oh, amazing, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Definitely a long time in the making and very excited to be here talking with you.
Great to have you here. A lot going on with baseball and what you're doing. But for those in the audience who don't know, just give us a quick introduction of yourself and kind of what you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Ari Solomon. I'm a graphic designer with Stadium Custom Kicks. Stadium Custom Kicks we're the top elite custom footwear brand. We work with thousands of professional athletes to create custom footwear. We work with guys you can see behind me. Guys like Jacob DeGrom, Reese Hoskins, Max Muncy. The list is pretty long. We also sell concept designs on our website. So I'm the lead designer for Stadium Custom. So most of the stuff that you see is either designed by me and sent to the artist and paint, or artists do freestyle. But that's basically just a general background about Stadium Custom Kicks. I'm also a freelance graphic designer on the side. I work primarily really in the sports industry. I do podcast art. I do logos. I do pretty much any graphic design needs that anybody could have. And I also have a podcast or a show. I call it chill, it's called a 5-minute drop actually. And basically what happens is an athlete comes on with me for 5 minutes. That usually takes about 10, 15 minutes. Usually having such a good time, I don't want to stop. And basically just conversation, not less of an interview, but more of just talking it out. And then at the end of the conversation, I revealed them a piece of custom artwork, which I then sent to them on a canvas for free as a gift after the show. So that's just a little bit of, I guess, a basic background about me and where I stand right now.
Yeah, that's great. I consider this more of a show than a podcast too, because it's really just having a conversation. I don't edit anything, and it's live. So for me, I consider it more of a show. You're a young guy. How did you get into this? And where'd you hone your graphics arts skill? And what is this something you always wanted to do? I say you're young now, but even when you were younger than that in high school, because you're in college now, right?
I am, exactly.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty awesome route. People all like to say that also, like, you're so young, like, what's going on here? And I start from the beginning. Basically, in high school, I was a 5-sport athlete. Sports were my life. I love sports. I couldn't get enough of it, watching, playing, anything. And I always knew that, I wanted to do something in sports. I kind of realized at a certain point that I wasn't going to be going to the MLB. I wasn't that good. I was good enough, Yeah. I was good enough for high school standards, but I wasn't going to the MLB. But I always knew that I really wanted to be in the sports industry. But I also knew and recognized from a young age how difficult that is to actually get into the sports industry, especially with me having no prior connections and, no just direction. I just knew I wanted to do it. So I kind of thought, and my parents actually got me interested in Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop. I was always like a creative type of guy on the side also. I like to draw. I honestly, and to be fully transparent with you also, I'm not the best freehand drawer either. So that was never really a skill, but I was always very creative in the sense, like, I had ideas and I would put it down. I used to make uniform concepts. Like, I would put stuff down on paper. But then my parents introduced me to programs like Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and where I could really learn the program. And that's how I could create art, and I don't need to be a freehand drawer or anything. It's a totally new style, new type of art. And I decided that that's going to be my entry, that I'm going to be, rather than the traditional sports route where it's hard, like let's say you want to go into the sports industry, like so many people have so many similar qualifications, like it's very hard to stand out, especially without connections. This is the way that I'm going to be able to stand out, is through visual art. That way it's much easier to distinguish me. So I started my own graphic design business in high school. I was doing, flyers and ads. I always had the intention of getting into the sports industry. Fast forward a little bit. I spent a year abroad in Israel overseas, right after high school, and I was running my business from there. And one day, this is the classic story. The best thing ever happened to me, where my computer crashed and I lost every single file that I had ever worked on or saved. And you'll see that actually was the best thing that ever happened to me, because that allowed me to really restart. Like, up until that point, I was just doing logos, I was doing flyers. Now I was like, okay, now I'm going to step up my game. I'm going to get into the sports world. I'm going to figure out a whole new set of skills that I'm going to do. So even fast forward a little bit, I started making graphics of and artwork of professional athletes. I was tagging them, tagging their agents, tagging, people. And I started to get responses. Like people started saying like, oh, we really appreciate this. This is like very cool. Like you take the time to create us artwork. I'm like, oh, awesome. Like, and I was really starting to realize like the power of social media and how I was really able to connect with so many people. And so I was, I started offering athletes a free piece of artwork if they would post on their page. They loved it. And so that was kind of more my interest. I started making my base level connections. I worked on, and right after the pandemic started, I worked with an NHL first round pick. We were connected through a mutual friend. And we created something called the Selly Forward Challenge, which was social media challenge geared towards raising awareness and donations for mental health during COVID. And we got a lot of athletes involved, a lot of, the superstars. And so that was kind of another way to make connections. Then fast forward a little bit, just, even pick up the pace of the story because we could talk for hours. But then I created this concept of 5-minute drop using kind of like the skills and connections I learned that I wanted to basically what's a concept that I can just give all the value to, somebody else and just basically just have them just come on a show with me. So I decided I'm going to create this piece of graphic artwork for them. They come on, all the athlete does, they hop on the show for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Sometimes it takes a half hour, we're having a good time. And I give them a piece of free artwork and I love it. So the third guest I ever had on my show, third or fourth, this is where we're kind of bringing it all full circle over here, was a guy named Alex Katz, good friend who is now, I guess, my boss, a very good friend of mine. He's also he's in the Chicago Cubs organization. And he is the CEO and founder of a company called Stadium Custom Kicks, which I described before, which is elite custom footwear brand in Major League Baseball, NFL. We work with thousands of athletes. And Alex brought me on. He loved my designs and everything. Then he brought me on as a designer. And then everything kind of just took off from there. So that's my long background.
Yeah, no, it's a great story. And Alex is he in Tokyo? Is he going to Tokyo?
Not yet. He's going to be in Tokyo should be next week. They're going to be on.
So he was a part of the Royals organization, right? Played for Team Israel. Sorry. It's and you're Orthodox, correct?
I am.
So big news in the draft that Steinmetz, right? I heard there was a second one picked on the second day. I know. Is it Jesse or Jacob?
It was Jacob. Fun fact: I hit a triple off of him in his freshman year. So let's see who should be drafted now.
But he plays on the Sabbath.
So he does. Yeah, he does. But the other one, Ellie Kligman, I think his name was. He's very adamant. He is not playing on the Sabbath, which is very impressive. And I'm very curious to see how that works out. But it's pretty cool.
Pitcher, right? I mean, I think they can. I think it's as a pitcher, it's a lot easier to navigate than say an everyday player or even any other sport, because you can't control whether the games are on Saturday, but pretty well in advance, hey, we can get this guy away from Saturday. What will be interesting is, how good is he? And when you get to the postseason, we're hoping to have Tamir Goodman. Have you ever talked to Tamir?
Of course. Good friend. Good guy. Very good guy.
We're hoping to have Tamir Goodman. He was, that might be the last time we heard, a prominent Jewish athlete. Although there are some out there. And who was the Dodger? Who was the outfielder? Green.
Oh, Sean Green.
Yeah.
Green,
he was in the news. So it'll be interesting to see, but it's great. It's great to see Team Israel. I think they're going to have a good outing out there, a good showing in Tokyo, and it's good. I'm Jewish myself, so I'll root for Team USA, but I'd love to see Team Israel do as well as they can out there. Have you designed some cleats for the team? Yeah,
definitely. We did prepare for Danny Valencia, Lone Leishman. I think Stadium Custom, our company itself, designed for the entire team. The ones that I was actually involved in physically designing was a few of those. We also did some on Team USA. Working on that right now. So we're gonna be showing the Olympics this year.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's such a visible thing for you. You see the pictures behind, cleats, jerseys, hats, whatever it is. You got featured in Fortune, right, or Wall Street Journal. How did that come to be?
The Wall Street Journal. Yeah. So the Wall Street Journal was through my former school at this point was at Yeshiva University. They have a feature. Basically, they have an insert into the Wall Street Journal. They have like a special magazine, which is an insert once a year, and they feature either alumni, usually not students, but in this feature about business and entrepreneurial accomplishments. And so they asked me if they wanted to they could interview me. I was in Florida at the time. They sent the photographer down. We had a whole photo shoot, and that went in there. So that was how the Wall Street Journal came down. I mean, there was other publication. I think Times of Israel also. That was just reached out to. It's good press. The press just I just say it comes. It's great. What comes with the cleats comes with how it happens. People are just interested in the story.
Yeah, it's a great story, and I post a lot on social media. I tag everyone. I had Michael Bolton actually replied to one of my tweets, which was weird. And then you have, the accounts like it, but who knows if that's really the person. But you're actually having interactions with the players. You're bringing them on your show. You're doing a cleat for them. So you're having the interaction with the actual players, and they're out there wearing your product, which is, an unbelievable feeling. It must be. Which comes first? Are you mostly talking to them first? Do you have to design it first? Or you just say, hey, I'd like to design for you, and then they do it?
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on who it is and who's coming to us. Either sometimes it's the player themselves that comes directly. Sometimes it's the agent. Sometimes the charity that comes forth and says, we want to do it for this guy. And we don't even talk to the player. I would just do it through them. But it really just depends on who the guy is and, how involved. It's like some guys are really involved. Some guys really want to be involved in the process. They have a vision, they're creative. They want this and that. They want this and that. And then we kind of talk and we put it all together and make it work and put all their visions on paper. Some guys just say, I just want my team colors, do whatever you want with it, make it go crazy. I'm looking to spend $1,000, and then we could do whatever we want. And they want it. Sometimes they just say, do literally whatever you want. Like, I'll wear it. It really just depends on the guy.
Yeah, we deal with that a lot. People who want, like, they have all the artwork for you and say, here's the design we want, or it's like, here's my logo, here's the design guidelines, and do whatever you want. I find that when we get to do it, I think sometimes the style comes out better because you have a good understanding about what the design of a cleat should be, as opposed to someone just saying, hey, I want this artwork on there.
Right. Exactly.
Your focus is on baseball, apparently, right? But football's got the same thing. Have you done any basketball shoes?
Yeah, so we actually did Terry Rozier a few weeks ago, right before the end of the season. So we worked with him. Football, definitely. We work a lot in football. Obviously, we're still even a young company. Last year was my first season with the company in football. This is going to be the next year. So hopefully we're going to have a lot more. We had a few pairs in the Super Bowl last year also. So we're definitely very involved in football. We're trying to grow our reach. Right now, I guess it's baseball season, so that's really like our main thing. But hopefully, come football season, they're going to be having the same volume, we have a lot of big plans in the works. We're in a lot of talks with teams and people. So hopefully we're going to be, just as busy come winter.
Yeah, I mean, I assume a lot of people see it and they're like, oh, I want one of those for myself. So it's you're going to get a lot of referrals, just people, someone like Jacob DeGrom or anyone who's wearing them. And I assume you the same way I would do when I have something. Like we did a thing for Tyson Jones, like you push the known stuff. So people like saying, if I'm sending an email to someone, I'm putting a copy of that on there. So you're, kind of leveraging, you got to kind of leverage the stuff that you've done. But you've done a lot of athletes so far. So it's not, while you're relatively new, it's not an unknown thing. It's something that's very tangible for you to show that's out in the world, which is really a huge thing when you show something being used, as opposed to just the idea of it, or maybe you've sketched something up with it. Are these sneakers or are these cleats like they're just regular cleats, high quality cleats, and then you're putting, like, if I said I want it on this sneaker or this cleat, you can do that?
Yep, exactly. We just take the cleat and we put whatever we need to on it. Take a regular see behind me. I could also bring that down if you want at some point.
Yeah, bring it down and show. I think people would like to see.
Sure. Yeah. Let me get this over here. So I mean, here's a design right here. Here's one of my favorites that I have. This was actually my first that I ever designed. So this is, you can see that it's a donut theme shoe, as you know, with trademarks and everything. Got orange and pink donut themed, but so you can see also, so it's a regular Nike Alpha Huarache cleat 3. So it's just this came plain white to our artist, and then the artist basically put the whole shoe together by hand. You can see each one of these sprinkles is actually a brush stroke. It's like one, one, one. So it's, as much as it looks like machine printed, it's actually completely hand painted. Even this is by this grading. This is by an airbrush. This is by an airbrush. So you can see the whole every part of this entire thing was just plain white, and so it's a regular cleat. So that's pretty much what we work with. We work with anything.
How durable is that if I'm playing and getting worn and dirty? How does that work with a design?
Yeah, it's extremely durable. It should be lasting you at least a full season, more than that. You know, even Alex told me yesterday that he actually threw his cleat. He paints his own shoes also, so he painted them for himself, and he got them dirty, and he actually threw them in the wash, and they came out perfectly cleated. No paint came off or anything. So that's another thing I wish you got a video of, but yeah, it's extremely durable.
I threw sneakers in the wash one time, and I was never able to wear them again. The thing bent. The inside bent, and it was like, I think there's a thing you got to have like something inside so it stays. There's definitely a way to wash sneakers and shoes in the wash, and a way not to. I can tell you how not to do it. I guess it sounds like Alex can tell you how to do it just fine. What's next for either Stadium Kicks, or where do you hope to be yourself? Because you're still in college, right? You haven't graduated yet. And when do you graduate?
So I'm going to be graduating hopefully by February. I'm going to be done. I'm going to be done with my degree.
Okay.
So I'm graduating hopefully February.
And it's like, you don't even need the degree. You're working already with some of the most famous people in the sports world, and you're doing a great job, and you're doing, freelance stuff. So what happens once you're graduated?
Yeah, my plan is, I love Stadium Custom Kicks. I love what we're doing, and my plan is just to go 110% with it. Do whatever I can. It's still a young company, still, but at the same time, as we grow, obviously taking opportunities on the side too. I'm also freelancing for other places, and other big for teams and for players and organizations. So it's really where I just love the space. I love just the creative sports design space. Whatever is needed, I can design. I've been reached out to design uniforms, design hats, design this, design that. It's really wherever life takes me, wherever God takes me. That's pretty much what we're gonna do. But I love Stadium Custom Kicks, and that's hopefully gonna keep on growing.
How many people are designing at Stadium Custom Kicks?
So on the graphic design side, we have, I believe, four designers. One of them is Evan Mendoza, who is actually a AAA player for the Cardinals right now. So he's also very involved. He's very artistic. And we have another one who's a former Jordan brand designer. And then another designer she specializes in lacrosse. She's with, I think, North Carolina. And so she's with Team USA now. So she comes back, she'll be working more in lacrosse designs, but that's the graphic design team.
And that's designing and painting. So there's a difference between being able to think about it, being able to design something, and then being able to paint it. You're doing all three of them.
No, so I'm not painting actually.
Oh, you're not painting. Okay.
I'm not painting. I'm designing. I create the design, and then we send it to the artist, and the artist basically take my design and transfer onto the shoe.
Okay. And is it one artist? Is it a lot of artists?
Yeah, we have, I think, 20 artists right now around the country. We have strategically, logistically, we have in every corner of the country. We have an artist in Hawaii. We have artists in Wisconsin. We have artists in Florida. We have in Alabama. We have them strategically placed around the country for, so we can get rush orders done and wherever we need to get them out.
Is this all one-offs? Is there any, idea to create a if you're working with teams to create a team design, and then, for fans who want to do it, but also the players. Is this more right now for fans or for players, or where are you seeing most of the sales?
Yeah, so it's all over the board. We actually we actually worked with Baylor University Baseball this year. We did a team order for them. The whole team got the same cleat. We work with, on our website, we sell concepts. Basically, any person can buy any shoe. I create the digital design of the shoes, and that goes online. So it's paint on demand basically. So whenever someone orders one of the concepts, then we'll get it taken care of and painted and sent to them. There's a lot of one-offs. There's a lot of, I've had some offices order some. There was a finance firm that wanted some pairs for the top guys in the company, and also, as client gifts. It's custom sneakers is just like a really cool space right now, and anywhere, and it could fit into anything, literally. So we're starting to really expand and go wherever, in every aspect that you never would have thought sneaker culture would ever hit.
Yeah, what's the cost? What's the cost of this? Because the shoe and the cleat itself could be expensive, but with the art on top of that, are people? Do you know what if people are wearing these all, or if they're just having them? I mean, some people collect sneakers to collect sneakers. This would be something that's really cool if you're a fan of a team or a player. But some people will want to go ahead and wear this, maybe for special occasions too. Do you have an idea of what the breakdown on that is?
Yeah, it's totally all over the spectrum. I mean, in terms of the price, the shoe itself, the cleat itself could be, whatever it is. It could be even $120, $130. In terms of the actual artwork, the artwork design on top of the shoe usually ranges somewhere between $100 to $300, depending on the complexity of the design and how long it's going to take the artist to paint. Our simpler designs can go for $220, whatever it is around that. And a more expensive design can, even on expensive like golf shoes, can get up to $1,500. But usually they fall pretty much in the middle of that. People when they're going custom, they really want to go all in and put their vision down. So it's people use it for everything. Sometimes people wear them. Sometimes people put them on display. Sometimes people wear them in game, not in game. Yeah, it's really just a market which just people want it and do whatever they want with it.
I buy a lot of Gator shoes that were put out by the school in Nike or Jordan brand. Some of them look good. They don't feel that. I probably have 5 different pairs, 5 different designs, and I don't know. Maybe one of them feels comfortable enough. I kind of like to just have them. I don't wear them as much. Maybe if I go to a game, but I am a huge fan of fan art, and that's been a huge surge in fan art. So many ridiculously talented people. What's your style when you were drawing fan art? Did you have someone that you not copied, but were inspired by? Do you have a sort of a theme to it?
Yes, I think for me personally, I think that was actually one of my bigger strengths in terms of when I was learning to design sports design, is that I really just found it on my own. Like, I didn't have any inspiration. I never even had an Instagram page when I started doing it. Like, I was just, I just created my style on my own, which I know that because when you go on Instagram and different places, you see a lot of very similar styles in terms of graphic art, because, people kind of, when they want to learn how to do it, they kind of look at other people's stuff and how do you do it, and not copying, it's create your own style, but there's very similar kind of tones to it. But for me, I kind of just created my own style from scratch without really any inspiration. I just putting stuff together and finding brushes and finding this and seeing what works. And it took a while, and it obviously progressed over a few years. But now at this point, I think that's really what my strength would be, in the sense of just unique. I don't really look elsewhere for inspiration. I kind of just think about it. I try a lot of things. I put stuff together, see what works, see what doesn't, switch it up. So that's kind of my style.
Do you have a favorite piece that you've done for someone else? Do you have a favorite piece that you've done for yourself?
So my favorite piece of anything I've ever designed is definitely, you can see behind me also, the Jacob DeGrom cleats that he wore last year, honoring Tom Seaver. Those were definitely, I grew up a Mets fan my whole life. I was always a big Jacob DeGrom guy, of course. So, being able to make something for him that he wore in game and was talked about on the air, when it was on all these social media pages, I just thought that was the coolest thing. I love that.
You got to do a Polar Pete with 2 home run derby trophies on it. we're a big fan of him. I have a signed baseball of him and Tebow when they were with the St. Lucie Mets. It's one of my favorite pieces of memorabilia. Do you do stuff for yourself at all? We had Matthew Lee Rosen. I don't know if you know who he is with the bubblegum bazooka card art, and he does stuff. He has it, but if someone wants to buy it, he'll sell it. He'll have it on the wall. How about for yourself? Is that something that you do for yourself? Do you buy other people's stuff that you think is interesting?
Yeah, I create my own stuff basically, but yeah, everything is for sale basically. I mean, all this stuff behind me is, just highlighting my own work. That was just what I created, canvases that I make for athletes, sometimes I have them hung up around. I actually have more artwork over there. I mean, I actually just started another business last week, custom artwork, custom Jewish artwork specifically. And so I have a lot around, different like landscapes and verses and, different stuff and some rabbis, and, so there's a good market for that. And, I decorate my house with a lot of that type of art. So, and I sell that too. So it really just depends. Yeah. Whatever I want, I need something to match something, I just create it. So pretty much how it works for me.
If I could do that, I'd be drawing stuff and creating all day and I have some really cool stuff that I've done. I had someone do a Mount Rushmore and a Tebow piece. I definitely will reach out to have you do a custom piece for me. I don't even have enough wall space to put all this stuff. So I got to kind of try and find things. I'm a collector. That's what Ticket Time Machine. We're all about memorabilia, but that, my love of sports and entertainment and memorabilia and collectibles and kind of, it's just a creative spin on someone. Like my Tebow one is, I'll show it to you. I'll grab it right here. This is real quick. Mixed media, but it's like, so Tebow playing baseball, football, and in college. So it's just sort of stuff like that. The great thing about fan art and getting custom is it means something to you, even if it doesn't mean a whole lot to anyone else. Tebow is a big name, obviously, but you can really have anyone, right? And you wouldn't necessarily go to a store and see maybe even just Alex, on it, right? I mean, he's carved out a pretty good career for himself. Obviously, he's going to be in Tokyo and in the majors and doing well, but you wouldn't necessarily see that art everywhere. So you can just kind of design whatever you want. I do stuff for movies and TV characters and kind of mix it up a little bit. I have one with Seinfeld and Family Guy kind of together. So for me, it's I try and think of something that would be meaningful to me and have it custom made, as opposed to, you could buy a lot of different stuff out there that's already made. Do you have more people coming to you with a design and with everything in mind, or they're saying, hey, give me Tebow and I want you to create whatever you want?
Yeah, it's more just giving me the creative space, just do what I want. It's really just, I want this, like, go for it. I mean, people want their own, a lot of times with themselves and like their own life documented, kind of like I did one for a canvas for an agent a few years ago, and he wanted a picture, kind of like, he sent me like a bunch of pictures of him and his clients. And so I kind of just put together a whole piece for him, pictures of him, the clients, and from where he's from, where they're from, I'll kind of put it together. So it's really just, most times people just hand me photos and just tell me do something with it, and I take it from there.
And what's the design stuff that you're using? It's Illustrator. You're creating it on the computer, digitally, correct?
Yeah, I use Photoshop primarily. Yeah.
Photoshop. So you decided to actually make a career out of it instead of just photoshopping funny stuff on the internet and posting it.
Basically.
A lot of creative people. Some of the stuff I see online, especially on Twitter, is like crazy funny and creative, and I guess it's not really that hard to do, but it's the difference between being able to come up with something in your mind and then actually being able to put it either to paper or on a computer to actually make it work. You got to have all of that. Otherwise, you're coming up with a design and now you're paying someone, quite a bit of money to make that come to life. So there's probably a lot of people who can do good designs on the computer, but they don't have the creative mind. It's hard to find something. I've just trying to find people to do my graphics. you kind of see a little bit, like if I have to tell you everything that I want done, it's kind of difficult. I almost better off just trying to learn how to do it myself, which is not the easiest. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, though. Do you have a subject that you like to do the most? I mean, I know you do a little bit of everything. Is it baseball?
It really depends. I mean, I love baseball. I have a lot of good, I guess, connectivity. Baseball. Yeah, honestly, baseball is probably my favorite to work with, just because it's just how it's kind of played out. Baseball's kind of given me a lot of great opportunities. So I owe a lot to the game.
What do you think would have happened if you didn't lose all the files in your computer and you didn't take that trip to Israel? We always talk about life being right place at the right time and moments. You know, what do you think would have happened if you never went out there and that didn't happen? Could you be where you are today?
I think there's a lot of things that, that kind of transpired even after that could be where, where I want today. And, it's just that's where the faith comes in. That's where the faith in God comes in, that, that you're being guided and, nothing is an accident, and the way that everything works out. Even this past year with the pandemic and all like the tragedy that it brought, and, people went through such hard times, that was really kind of what gave me that step, as much. It was really such a dark time, but I was able to take such like a positive step into that and really use that time to kind of build myself up. Even if that didn't happen, I don't know where I'd be, but that's really kind of just where faith comes in. But yeah, it's everything kind of just led to another. And at the time, it definitely did not think. When my computer crashed, I was on the phone with Apple for 2 days. I was so mad. I was so pissed off. I did not know what to do. Like I was beside myself. And then, but it's good. It's always good to know that, everything just works out. It's kind of what I figured out at this point, that no matter what, everything just comes together.
Yeah, I think, that's one of the things that gives me a lot of peace and very little stress, is that I just think everything's going to work out one way or another. It doesn't mean everything's going to go the greatest way it can, but no matter what, we'll be okay. We'll have a roof over our head, family, friends, something to eat, and be able to find, lucky enough to be able to find something to do job-wise that will help us be able to afford it. And I had that feeling when I went through the mental health. So you talked about, mental health being a big thing for you, and kind of at the beginning. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really at the very beginning when everybody was so confused. I was in Yeshiva University. I don't remember if you know that there was headlines that we were the first school in the country to shut down. We were like the first infection in New York. There was a lot of press for it. I was in school that day, and I remember we started getting rumors that somebody in, I think, one of the students in our school. This was also before we knew anything. This is when we, Corona was in China, and we were like, all right, it's overseas. We're fine. We're hanging out. There's concerns, but all of a sudden we were hearing rumors that a son of somebody who actually got the virus was in Yeshiva University. And we were like looking around here. It was on Twitter. It started to be reported by news sites, and we were just like, what is happening here? And then all of a sudden, they said we saw an ambulance pull up with the guys in hazmat suits, and we're like, okay, time to go. That's it. We're out of here. And so we shut down that weekend. But we got home, and in the ensuing weeks, especially, like people were my neighbors were. I literally like 5 or 6 people even on my block were hospitalized. Friends of mine, parents from friends of parents, were hospitalized. Some passed away. It was just a very like scary time. And but what really like kind of struck me, especially in with the mental health type of thing, was it was like I had friends whose parents were on life support. They were literally fighting, like everybody's just on like helping them, supporting them, and all of a sudden the next name comes up of somebody that's on life support, and then you just forget about the first person. And it was like and then all of a sudden the next person, because there was just so many people, and I was just like, and it was just like so hard to really put yourself in these people's shoes. Like people lost parents, but then there were also people at the current time losing parents. It was like, where can we focus our attention on? Like people really need, this comfort and attention. So we really, and this was just a cause that people weren't really necessarily paying attention to without any fault of anybody at all. All the mental health organizations, all the people were donating all the money to hospitals and donating all their money to, doctors. But people were really just not thinking about the mental health effects of it. Especially with some of my friends, some of my friends went through really hard times. Some of my friends lost family members. And so that was kind of what motivated us to get that together.
And I'm a Same Here CEO. Same Here is a global mental health. Robin Lehrer from the Vegas Knights, although is he still in Vegas? I'm drawing a blank here. Anyway, he had a Same Here helmet. I don't know if have you been introduced to Eric at Same Here?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'll have to introduce you guys afterwards because he's got a lot of good athletes that are part of the movement, and it might be a good fit with you and some of the art that you do. But yeah, it's a tough thing that you're going through that. You've lost someone, and everyone else is saying, it's no big deal. Okay, it's only 0.001% of the people who die. Okay, well, that's someone's father, mother, daughter, sister, husband, wife. It was a tough thing to go, and we're not out of the woods by any stretch, but we're seem to be in a better place. I heard Bradley Beal just got COVID. He's playing for the Olympics, so that could wipe out the whole team and three other teams. You just never know about that. It's just a sad thing that's going on with the Olympics. The people who have worked their whole life for it, and sometimes you only have one window for the Olympics, and for them to either miss out on it for whatever reason or to go, and now their family can't be there, there's no spectators. It's going to be real interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously you're going to watch the baseball. Is there any other part of Olympics that you really enjoy for Summer Olympics?
Well, I used to say that basketball was always a waste of my time because the U.S. beats everybody by 70, but this year it actually seems like might be a little bit interesting to watch over here. What are they 0-2 now?
Well, they just beat Argentina, who is like number 4, and they beat them by like 30. So I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, I mean the Olympics are interesting. It's a good opportunity to focus on sports, which I never would ever think about. So track is always fun to watch, but I don't know. Whatever's on TV usually.
So you're American. Your parents were born in the U.S.?
Yes.
Your parents were born in the U.S. You're Orthodox faith, big part of your life. How do you navigate between the two? I mean, do you root for Team USA over Team Israel? Is it you've been there? How many times have you been to Israel?
I've been to Israel 20 times, maybe less, 18. I've been there, all the time. I have all my family's from there. My family, my grandfather is from there. My dad's a dual citizen of the country, so I have a lot of background there. I mean, it's the same. The way to just put it into terms is that I'm a proud American. I love this country. I love my country. Where I'm raised. That's the beautiful thing about America is that I could be an Orthodox Jew, but also an American. That's just about it doesn't matter what faith you are, or what denomination. That I can be proud of my country and proud of where I'm from. Of course, I also love Israel at the same time. Israel is, it's where my family is from too. Where I go back, I have a very deep connection to the land. Also, it's really, I just, I love both countries with everything I have, and it's kind of the thing where whoever wins, I love both. I love the U.S. and I love Israel. I'm just, at the end of the day, it's baseball.
I didn't expect you to pick one or the other, but it's more of just a larger conversation for people who don't really understand the faith, and people who are being Jewish and what it means. Like, to me, it means something a lot different to you because I'm Reform, and for me, being Jewish is like my race. It's a culture. It's like, I hope Israel does great, and I'm talking about not sports wise. I wish peace and love and success for everyone, but I'm American, so it's like it's hard for people to understand that we're American. Some of us are American Jews. You're a little bit different because your faith has brought you closer to that. It has a little bit more meaning to you than it would to say someone like me who's Reform, or even someone who maybe is conservative. And even just so many different levels of the Orthodox, right? Like, you wouldn't go play on Saturday, but this draft guy would. So there's so many different levels that I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of people in the world as they see the stuff that's going on. And we don't need to get into the politics of it. I don't even know enough of it to understand. But it's okay to support someone and still think that they're not okay, right? I could be Jewish and support Israel and not agree with everything that they're doing. So it's just, and same in the U.S. Proud to be a U.S., someone in the U.S., but there's plenty of stuff here that's not great. I don't know anywhere in the world that's that's perfect. Maybe Key West. Maybe Key West. Maybe Key West and Gainesville. You're such a, we'll bring it back to your age. You're so young, and have had a tremendous amount of success, which has really, forced you to kind of grow up real fast. Do you have any thoughts about how you're going to handle this moving forward? Because I'll equate it to sports. I watched a really good, I don't know if it was a 30 for 30. It was on the Little League Baseball. And this kid who was 13, 14 years old, and he won it was like in the 80s, and they won it all. And this guy was like the next greatest thing, the Freddie Adu's of the world. Like, to get that much praise and that much success at the beginning, it happens all the time. But there's not a huge number of people who can actually embrace that and take it, like the Tiger Woods, like Kobe Bryant, like LeBron James, even that guy Danny Almonte, right? I mean, what happened with that? He did. So is that something that people have talked to you about? Have you thought about? What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just continuing kind of, to me, just the way that I was raised, the way I grew up, and, the way that, there's no room for big shots. It's just, I thank God. I'm very grateful for my success and everything that's come. But I'm always walking around with the feeling that successful as that I've had. I still have a lot to grow. I still have a lot to do. And there's, I have 2 full-time jobs. I have, staying custom kicks, then also being a good person and contributing to the world and contributing to everybody else. And nobody needs me walking around like I'm somebody special and more than I am. I do good things, but it's, I mean, just kind of just continue with the same values that I had and grow up with, and just manage my time and do everything I can.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're in a world that is filled with big shots and people who will big time you all the time, all day, every day. So it's hard to, and when you feel that way and you talk to the athletes too, everyone puts these athletes and actors and celebrities, on a pedestal, and some of them deserve it. They've entertained, and there's greatness in people, but at the end of the day, they're just a person. And, I don't think that their time's worth any more than mine. Obviously everyone should feel that way, but it's interesting. You talk about the second job, about being a good person. And I've always tried to do that. I'm not very religious at all, but something changed in me, I think, and maybe it's when I started the business, to focus on being a good person and really wanting to help others. So doing a show like this where I can introduce people to the world, give them a platform to talk about what they're passionate about, what they're working about, doing my open to work thing. And it's hard to be someone like that and see a world where there's a lot of people who don't care about that. And so how have you navigated through that? Because not everyone sees that the way you do. And you consider it as a job. I don't think of it as a job, but you think of that as a job. It's serving a higher purpose. That's the faith and the Judaism, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And especially with, and that's, I think really it all kind of ties back to, a couple of things. Number one, I think without a doubt, not what I think, but what 100%, keeps me grounded or whatever is obviously faith, faith and religion, that there's a higher purpose in that sense. I'm living this world. I'm doing everything I can, but at the same time, I have other duties and other jobs, and it's just as important as, making shoes with Jacob DeGrom as being charitable, making sure that I'm honest 100% at all times with everybody, making sure never going behind anybody's back, being straightforward, being nice, being helpful wherever I can, like I'm not being too big for anybody's time. Just kind of, it's really the faith. And I think also that's kind of what helps me connect on a very personal level with a lot of athletes and a lot of people, because there's a lot of guys, a lot of, athletes, young guys who are just like me, who kind of just come out of college and they're being revered as like these big shots and everything. But a lot of them are not necessarily, like that. Like they just grew up and they're good guys. They grew up how they grew up, wherever they're from. And, they're just doing what they love. They play baseball. And I think it's nice for them, kind of to speak to someone like me and be like, I'm just a friend also. We kind of have the same purpose, I'm not looking at you as like how like a 3-year-old kid like sees LeBron James, like as another god. Like, you're another guy. We have a lot of stuff in common. We love sports, like to talk. So I think that's pretty much the way that just guides my life.
Is there any there's got to be conflicts in there between the world that you're in, whether it's the sports and the business and all of that, and to try and still keep, the lifestyle that you're doing. Have you encountered a lot of it? Is it just minimal? How does that impact your work and your faith?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely that's what's the most difficult part, I guess, of being, an Orthodox Jewish person, and especially in America, just because it's very difficult because, for me, from Friday night until Saturday night, I'm totally off the grid. That's the time spent for Shabbat, Sabbath. It's for family. It's for, growing religiously. You can't use your phone, no electricity. I mean, we don't people always ask me, so what, you just sit there in the dark? I'm like, no, we have lights. We have lights, we have timers, we use the oven, we don't adjust it. We live a life, it's really just a life that's just disconnected. You can't drive anywhere. So it's really a time where you just kind of just kick back. But also during, Friday night to Saturday, especially in the sports world, that's like prime time. That's college football Saturdays. Yeah, it's the reality. People ask, so what, you don't watch daytime prime time college football? I'm like, no, I have no idea. I check the scores after, there's a day game on Sunday, and, World Series Game 7. I remember my dad's a big Cardinals fan. They won on Friday night one year. We saw it in the New York Post the next day. And especially as a hardcore sports fan, working in business, that's definitely hard to navigate. But at the same time, people respect it. People are very accommodating. I'm very, very thankful to everybody that I work with and everybody that I have worked with in the past, because people respect it. People see that, oh, like your faith is that it's so important to you. So, like stuff that's important to us, like also like, I respect, I obviously, if people have faith or different things, I obviously respect that 100% just as much. Even if we're not on the same wavelength, we all just important to have respect for each other. So I've actually found it's been much easier to be Orthodox in the sports world than I actually thought it would be. People are really just understanding. People are great. People have just been awesome. I mean, there's obviously conflicts also in general. What the conflicts really start when you start going away and doing business trips. Like that's where it's hard. Where you're gonna eat kosher food? Where you're gonna spend Shabbat? I pray 3 times a day. Where you're gonna? But that's all stuff you kind of just figure out, and it's definitely a challenge. But there's the two cultures. It's possible. That's kind of what I'm trying to show. Also, like it's possible to come together. People just when you hear Orthodox Jew, it's like, oh, this guy's an accountant. He's a lawyer. He can't do anything on Shabbat. All right, he stays with his community. But that's not really how it is. Just a stereotype. So I'm kind of just trying to break that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it can be done, but it is different because if you're in Israel, like everything shuts down, right?
Exactly.
So you don't have an option. If you're Amish and you're in the Amish thing, everyone's doing it. So when you're around, the Orthodox community is very close knit, so they're all sharing and helping, go into other houses. And but it's still there's a right around you down the street or even next door. There's someone who's not operating in the same way that you're doing. So it's but it's good. I think it's great. The 2 players being drafted is only going to, I think, help just to show that it's possible. And if you're good enough, if you're good enough, people are going to accommodate you, right?
Exactly. That's how it works.
That's really the bottom line. So if you're good enough, people will accommodate you and they'll figure out a way to do it. Tim Tebow, such a polarizing figure. We talked about it. I love Tim Tebow. I'm a Gator fan. I was Bronco fan. I hope he makes the team. He gets so much hate for his faith, and it's just we were just talking about this. Unbelievable to me. One thing I don't understand is that everyone praising God and Jesus, but there's someone on the other team who just got their butt kicked who's doing the same thing. So how does faith come into competing? Competing. We'd be like, why? How can everyone give all this praise when there's all the bad stuff? How does that come into mind? Because for me, I'm not as much again, I think the Jewish thing is more of a culture or race more than just serving someone, which obviously is different than what they do. But how does that go in with all the bad and all the contradicting people? Like this person wins, this person loses. It's very clear. How do you navigate through that? What are your thoughts on that when you hear that on on interviews, which is basically anyone who gets interviewed these days?
Yeah, of course. I mean that's always the big question regarding faith. Like why do bad things happen to good people? Like how does it happen? And really because at the end of the day we're human beings. So that's the main way that I have faith and orthodox in the way you do it is that we're all human beings, and our capacity the reality is it's just limited. The what we can think about. It's never going to be possible for us to understand. Why did this building collapse at Surfside? Why did it happen? Like, why did people die? Just like why? Like, and once you can and it's very hard to do, and it's part of faith. But once you kind of can figure out and understand and be like, I'm never going to understand why, so I may as well believe and truly believe that it's for a reason and that there is a reason behind it, which is very difficult. And that's why having true faith is very hard. But for me, that's what we spend time learning about, that there is a God that controls everything. And for some things that seem to us in my eyes as terrible and horrible as, why did I lose the Super Bowl? Why did Scott Norwood,
Yeah, but I get the life thing and all that, but the point is, like, Scott Norwood lines up, right? If he makes it, he's praising God. If he misses it, the guy on the other team is praising God and Jesus for it. So it just seems like a weird dynamic in sports that that's the person. But I guess you're sort of thanking him that you're here and you're alive and you're able to do it, not necessarily saying that's why. It's just me being here gave me the opportunity, and me being here is because of it. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I lost 7 baseball championships in high school. I lost 4 regular season and 3 tournament championships in a row. Like, I went 0-7. I was devastated. But at the end of the day, I was just like, okay, it hurts, but there's a reason, and whatever, you got to move on. And thank God I'm alive. I'm looking around. I have family. I have everything. And if I win some, you lose some. That's just how sports is, and that's really how it is.
What position did you play in high school?
I was primarily a catcher, and then I switched into the outfield for junior, senior year.
Were you a better hitter than a fielder, or what was your game?
I was a good hitter. I played right field because I always had a very strong arm. I was not a pitcher by any means. I was wild. I was like 50 Cent out there. Every time I went, I was nowhere. I
hit my own brother in a little league game pitching. I was so paranoid about hitting people that I couldn't. Once someone stepped in, I was like Rick Vaughn. If he steps out, I'm like throwing strikes. I got great stuff. But yeah, I hit my brother in a little league game, and then I actually caught 2. And one time there's a play at the plate. I take off my mask, and I got it here, and the guy's charging at me. I took my eye off the ball for a second to look at him, and the ball hit me right in the head, like full speed, knocked me out. That was the last time I caught. What was the highlight of you on the field?
My highlight, I think I had it was probably my arm, on the field. I played right field, for that reason, that I was, when there's a base hit to me and there's a guy in second, like, don't go home. But they went home and I would gun them down. So that was pretty much my strength. But I was a pretty strong hitter also.
You're like, forget the cutoff guy. I'm throwing everyone out.
Oh yeah, no, I was not looking for any cutoffs. I'm going through all the way.
Yeah. What's your favorite sporting event that you've been to? Do you have, and what's a bucket list for you?
Favorite sporting event that I've been to? Honestly, probably my favorite game that I was ever at was, fortunately, the loss, but the Mets Giants wild card game a few years ago. It was a battle. Citi Field. I've never been to Citi Field, filled up and sold out. And I was literally in probably the worst seat humanly possible. I was in upper outfield at the top row in the top corner, of the upper deck in Citi Field. Like, I couldn't even. All I could see was the pitcher's mound. I could barely see. I couldn't even see the dugouts because like the ceiling was obstructing me. But I remember the atmosphere there was incredible.
Yeah, I was at
lost, but it was crazy.
It's a great atmosphere there, isn't it? I mean, just walk around. You don't have to sit in your seat all the time. There's great food. The Marlins have kosher. I think I was at the Yankees game. They have kosher free and gluten free. Most stadiums have kosher stuff. Is that stuff that you can eat, or is it kind of just like half kosher almost?
Yeah, that's kosher. All the kosher stands are kosher. That's real kosher. That's a blessing.
Kosher hot dog is delicious, right?
Yeah, I always wonder. It's always like, that's like a classic thing. Like, as like a kosher, like, you keep kosher when you go to like the stadium and you're sitting there and you have to wait like an hour on the kosher line and you see like all like not just people, you just get like come on, like just go there. And that was like a classic thing.
If you could eat anything, what would be one thing you're real curious to eat?
One thing I'm very curious to eat, honestly, probably the most thing I'm curious about is probably, I'm just curious what a cheeseburger is.
Yeah, I gotta say that's got to be an answer for everyone, right? What does a cheeseburger taste like?
It's like sounds so, I've had like the fake cheeseburgers, like the vegan cheese and everything. It's pretty good, but like I can't imagine what a real cheeseburger would taste like. It sounds delicious.
Heaven. It's heaven. Give me a Mount Rushmore of Jewish athletes. Either people you admire the most or who were the greatest ever. I mean, Koufax comes to mind, right? He's got to be on there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Koufax is that's somebody that you always look up to, especially the way he didn't pitch on Yom Kippur. For me, yeah, I guess Koufax. Tamir Goodman, you said you had before. So that's someone I've always respected. I always look up to somebody who's really keeping his faith grounded in the way that he gave it all up. He's an example of somebody. He's not. He wasn't going to be a second and third, but like he was a top prospect out of high school. Like he had like big offers. Like he really like could have been like huge like NBA, but he wasn't willing to give it all up. So I love that about him. I really respect him for that. Those are my two really big guys. Big Jewish role models. I think
we put Amari Stoudemire in there. He's been a great ambassador.
Oh yeah, Amari Stoudemire. How could I forget about Amari Stoudemire? Legend. Amari's amazing. Amari is also somebody very incredible. His journey and his path and what he's doing right now.
What do you think would be? I mean, obviously football is the hardest one if you're playing on Saturdays. What's the easiest? Baseball going to be the easiest, right? If you're a pitcher and you just don't pitch on Saturdays. I wonder why we don't see a little bit more Jewish professional athletes. I don't know. We all played it, right? I mean, is that? I feel like there should be more, but it's not a ton of people. Like you can't just easily come up with all those people who just did such great things. Hopefully it's coming up. Maybe these guys who just got drafted. We'll have to see about that. Do you have a bucket list for where you'd like an event you'd like to go to? Wow.
I mean, definitely bucket list. I mean, I would love to go to, I don't know if you just heard that was so loud, but I'd love to go to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl is, that'd be incredible. That's always, I'm a Patriots fan, so I would have loved to go to a Super Bowl back in the days when the Patriots would have been in it. Yeah. So that would have always been cool. Super Bowl is definitely. I'd love to go to the MLB All-Star game at some point. If that would have worked out this year, that would have been cool. But hopefully, going to get there.
I have a feeling that's going to be in your future. The Major League Baseball All-Star game, at a minimum. You might have to go to a Super Bowl without the Patriots in it. I'm not so sure they're going to get there. Last question. We'll let you out of here the same way we let everyone else out of here. You pick one person you could meet and spend the day with. They have to be alive. You can't be related to them. Who you're going to pick, and what do you guys want to do? And we'll go ahead and put it on the list. We're doing outreach, trying to make it happen for as many of the guests as we can. But I think we have some people who we can make it happen. So who are you picking, and what are you guys doing?
Wow. So whenever I get asked this question, I have two people who I've put them together. Two people. Number one is Tom Brady himself and David Wright. David Wright. Both of them they both share a lot of things. I could speak about both of them in the same way. That don't speak about everybody, just the way that they each conduct themselves. And number one thing about them, which is I've always just admired, is obviously they both came from teams which I loved growing up, but just number one, their loyalty. Like nobody could ever, especially talking about David Wright here, like the way that he stuck with the team, the way that the team was going, it seemed like it was going nowhere, and he stayed with them. He was willing. He stayed with that contract. He's like, I want to be in New York. Like I want to help. And then actually, it was the most amazing when he finally, even when he was plagued by injuries and everything, he finally got to the World Series with the Mets because he stayed with them. And he had spinal stenosis. But I was in Israel for the year when he retired, and I stayed up all night watching when he walked off that field, and just the utter respect for him. Such a good guy. The way that he he was so charitable, he was so nice. No scandals, nothing. Nobody ever had anything bad to say about him. One time I actually started with him also. I was the type of kid when I used to go to these games. Like I would I would chase. I was one of these guys. I would chase their cars down into the street. I was, when I was like 12 years old, I would take my baseball. And I remember David Wright one time. I just sprinted after his car. I just saw him. I ran through traffic. I was crazy and knocked on his window. And most guys just didn't open it. David just opens his window. He's just like, I'm like, yo, can you sign my ball? Like whatever. He just like looks at me. He's like, smiles. He's like, dude, please just don't get killed. Like, please. He's like, I'll sign the ball on condition you make it back to him. I'm like, oh, you're a legend. So he was amazing. I still have it. Of course. That's a big memory for me. But yeah, David Wright, just somebody who just, same thing with Tom Brady, just the way that they're always smiling. They're never involved in, anything sketchy, shady. They're very loyal. It's family, big family people, just really respectful, humble, the way that they portray themselves. It's those are two guys who
you have to pick one. Who are you picking?
Probably say Tom Brady. But David Wright also.
Brady's on the list. I thought maybe you were going to invite a celebrity over for Shabbat dinner. I don't know. That would be cool too, right?
That would be cool. All
right, Tom Brady on the list. Ari Solomon. Check out his website, arisolomondesign.com, for freelance custom work. Stadiumcustomkicks.com. Check them out. Their work's all over the place in Major League Baseball. It's going to be in the Olympics. 5-minute drop, a great show. It's really cool to watch the athletes when you give them that piece of artwork. Really awesome thing that you're doing here. Wishing you great success. Looking forward to seeing where this takes you and to collaborate and help wherever I can. So have a great night. Have a great Shabbat and a great weekend. And we'll talk to you guys soon. We got one more. We got Chad and Brandy Chastain joining us tomorrow to talk about their new venture, and tune in tomorrow. Otherwise, have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you.